Welcome to Cruising in the Light and Shadow. I am Anana Moon, your host. I am opening with a quote this week from the Buddha, which is, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves." And I think that's very wise because I like hearing that joy follows like a shadow. I think sometimes when I'm talking about cruising in the light and shadow, and that the shadow is important, that it's exciting, that it's part of who we are and we learn from it, that we don't think in terms of finding joy in our shadow. So this is it was the perfect quote. This popped up a couple of days ago, and I said, why, yes, this is right for this show. So I also now want to move on because I'm so excited to talk with her. Without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to Marisol Rascon, who's the owner of Golden Soul Yoga and Wellness Center. And I'm just going to read from Marisol's bio. She is a massage therapist and energy worker. She has dedicated herself to service through the healing arts. Marisol has an extensive background in energy medicine, including shamanic training in the Quero, am I saying that right? Quero tradition. Quero. Thank you. In the Quero tradition, as well as completing an apprenticeship with the internationally renowned intuitive healer and author Cindy Dale. I love Cindy's work. Marisol has nearly 2 decades of experience in the healing arts and has studied Ayurveda, Kundalini Yoga, craniosacral therapy, and various other bodywork techniques. You're probably like me. You use everything that you've learned. It all is
in the basket.
I'm going to ask about this one. You also use hot stone massage. That's wonderful. And then Abhyanga?
Yes.
All right. I'll ask about that in a moment. Energy and crystal therapy. And then she also does pregnancy massage. She loves to create sacred and safe space for her clients to listen to the body and their inner wisdom. Welcome, Marisol.
Thank you for having me, Anana. I'm so excited to be here.
This is wonderful. I'm going to stop right now and ask, what is Abhyanga?
Abhyanga is an ancient form of massage in Ayurvedic medicine. And there's medicinal oil that is warmed up and applied to the body in long, relaxing, nourishing strokes. So it's very nourishing. It's delicious. It's so nurturing. And it's a little counter to what our ideas of massage here in the West should be.
It's not like Swedish massage?
It's a little bit like Swedish massage, yeah. But the pacing can be slow or fast, and the medicinal oils are applied in a very generous quantity to absorb within the body for the healing properties to do their magic.
So there is fragrance as you are receiving.
Yes, it might smell like an Indian kitchen, which is...
Oh my gosh. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. That can be very sweet and wonderful as far as I'm concerned. That's terrific. Let me now go on and ask you about Golden Soul. It is Golden Soul Yoga and Wellness Center is in the Los Feliz area of Los Angeles, I should say. I feel very privileged because I also get to work there. I hold my intuitive sessions and Reiki work there. It's the first place that I really got to work professionally as a yoga teacher. But one of the cool things I want to mention for Marisol and I is that we met during yoga teachers training.
That's right.
Which is exciting. Kundalini Yoga teachers training. So I wanted to ask you, why did you open a yoga center when there were 1,000 centers maybe you could have worked at or whatever? You must have had a vision.
Well, I did have a vision for a very long time to do healing work, professionally, full time. I did not work full time in the healing arts for many years because I was a single mom, and so I was working at for many years in at a .com doing research analysis and kind of more in the techie world, and doing healing work on the weekends or evenings because that felt like it was very nourishing. But I got to a point where I really was not being fulfilled, or that soul fulfillment wasn't there at my job.
But so many people find after many years in a position.
Right. The pull started to get stronger, and the dissatisfaction started to get a little bit louder. And I was very scared to make that leap from going from a steady paycheck with benefits, with savings, to, okay, I'm just going to be an independent contractor and see what happens. Like that was not an easy shift.
I was going to say, well, that never happens to anyone, but
It's
actually,
so common.
let's talk about that, because that is common. It's huge. Knowing that there's something you yearn to do, and yet you're trying to figure out how to earn a living, take care of your family. Let's talk a little bit about steps
Absolutely.
toward that?
Yes.
To following your dream.
So, as you read, I have been studying and doing this work for a very long time.
Yes.
So it was always something that I kept more than a hobby. You know, a hobby is something fun, but maybe not something you feel a desire to do professionally.
This
so
would
there
be
was
an avocation.
right.
Yeah.
And I never let that go. And it was very important for me to at least get my hands on a body once a month, or
Yes,
you
just
know,
to
do
keep-
something that kept me connected with
keep
that.
your hand in, as it were.
Right. And then when that dissatisfaction started to weigh a little bit heavier, I actually went to a healer, and I started to explore a little bit where the resistance and that fear was. And knowing that for me, I had gotten to a point where I had done all of the right things to take care of myself, my family. I am like a big time caregiver, and it was a bit out of balance. And so when I started to look at that, I realized how important for my own spiritual evolution it was to embark into the exploration of opening up my own practice. And I did a lot of vision boarding and things like that to kind of exercise the fantasy of, if I could do anything, what would it be? And that's where this wellness center component started to come into my vision.
But this is caregiver on a bigger scale, actually. Do you sometimes go, well, I'm still in it, even though you were definitely caregiver to your family, but now is it just that your family has grown?
Now it feels more balanced.
All right.
And it feels that the boundaries have become a lot clearer.
Yes.
And it feels less depleting emotionally and energetic. I think that because there was a natural gravitation towards taking care of others that wasn't being satisfied, I was, being the breadwinner for my family. I bought a home. I moved my family in. I was trying to encourage them to do things that I felt were going to help their own evolution, and in a way trying to do the healing or guide them through the healing. And as you know, that does not work. People have to do that.
Very rarely for our families
Right.
does that work. Actually,
Right.
you can give suggestions. You can you can show by example, but it's really up to your loved ones. No matter how much you think something's good for them, it's up to them to make their decisions.
Yes.
And then you do as a healing practitioner get that healthy, I'm going to call it healthy detachment, where it's like you know that you're giving advice to someone who has come to you for that advice, but then you can stand back and observe in some ways.
Right. And going back to your question of what kind of advice I would give somebody that is embarking in starting their own practice.
Yes, please.
I would say be very aware of your own energy and your own boundaries, because yes, there is a separation. Your client leaves, goes to their home. You will continue on with your life. But that doesn't mean energetically or emotionally that you're creating a separation and a closure of that session. And if you are someone that is very sensitive, empathic, which most healers are, that can be something that takes a while to master. And I feel very privileged that I got to enter into this role after having a challenging time learning boundaries at home. So in a way, they were kind of like
part of the work. Yes.
Exactly. Life presents us with all of the lessons that we need if we are, accepting and seeing everything with our eyes open. And
great point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love the introduction of this shadow and joy, because it's true. Through those challenges, we have an opportunity to really grow and to take the gifts from that and apply them. So.
Very important point. Yes, exactly. The finding joy in your tough times helps you really learn from them, because eventually you will learn from them. We usually do it when the tough times pass, or some crisis passes, and then we go, oh, that's why that happened, or there's what I needed to learn from it. But to walk with that, think of walking with that joy right in the middle of, boy, there must be some good reason I'm going through this. So I'm going to find the best in it as you go is important. But I actually do think that's one of the things that happens because I went through it too, leaving a job, a practical everyday job that was paying for everything and my insurance and all of that, to I wonder if I can follow my bliss as well. But so you start to consciously say, what's the downside of following what I want to do, but also what is what will be the upside of going through the shadow phase of walking into what I want to do, not making enough money? Am I a survivor? What are my supports, both spiritual and physical? There are all kinds of questions to ask, and it's so helpful. I wrote a note here just to ask you about your vision board. What kind of items or symbols were on that?
Well, I did a couple of different manifestation things. One is from the Carol lineage, and it's called a kipu, and it is let's see if I can describe it. Often it is seen as like a long piece of like wood, like a long branch, and then it would have different colored yarn or string hanging down from it. So it can look a little bit like there's a big like modern bohemian look trend that's going on for home furnishings. So it kind of looks like those types of macrame wall hangings that you might see at a store, but with different colored strings. So in the Inca tradition, they used this as a form of like a abacus or keeping inventory of different things. And they believed initially that it was used for like trading and for keeping stock of, whatever crops they had.
Mm-hmm.
But as we have become more connected and with more access to the spiritual traditions of that land, we have come to find out that it wasn't just taking inventory of physical things, but actually energetic and spiritual things. And so with this tool, I did meditations. I implanted my seeds into this kipu, and I kept it with me. And so that was one way that I did some of this
some of
vision
the work
work
with the vision board. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and writing was a very profound thing. Always, actually, since I was a little girl, I've always been very much of just like that sound of pen on paper, and just there's something very grounding for me in that process. And one of the things that I started to do was just make lists or write, if I could have, the most ideal work environment, what would it look like? What would it feel like?
So you set intentions.
Yes.
Which I'm often talking about.
Yes. Intentions are everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because nothing unfolds without first the thought of what you want to do, and then going into the depth of that thought, and then seeing what steps are needed to carry something out. So writing is delicious, I think. I wanted to ask you, so looking more at your work, and I recognize too, a lot of people don't know what Ayurveda is. If you would talk about that briefly, and then how you use it in your massage therapy and holistic work.
Well, interestingly, now looking back, I realize why I was so drawn to it. And Ayurvedic medicine is based on the 5 elements. It's something that is very embedded in Chinese medicine, in yogic philosophy, in shamanic work, all of those things, which I
Goddess
am
ritual,
so
everything.
Paganism. I mean, all of that is about nature, right? And this idea that we are interconnected. And so there was such a deep, visceral understanding of that. So I've always had a healthy dose of skepticism, and I've wanted to believe, because I've had a lot of experiences, but those experiences have been undescribable and untangible and invisible and unexplainable. And so in these traditions, I found a way to really connect the feelings that I had of connecting to the divine to a very physical thing. So nature is the holder of all of these elements. So we look at the mountains and we can see and we can feel how the energy of the earth is nourishing us. We go to the ocean and we connect with the water, and we know how cleansing that can be. And fire, even sitting by the fire, how that really warms us up. Looking at the sun, and that being the most powerful example of fire.
Yes.
So that to me was kind of a game changer when I started to see, this is the thread that's connecting all of my interests. And Ayurveda is basically the Chinese medicine of India. So they work with herbs, they work with different healing modalities, and just many techniques very similar to Chinese medicine. I work with an acupuncturist now, and we kind of geek out on certain things and go I'll ask her, so does that mean that there's a wind imbalance, or,
what would you call that?
Right. So
perfect. Because that's something for me as far as using the elements in helping people with where they are. If they're going through having too much fire, anger, frustration and balancing that out with air, earth, and water. But then when I learned too that, acupuncturists use it, it's like, well, perfect. Now I have
Right. It
another
just
thing I
goes
can
so
understand.
deep.
It
you
is.
know?
It really does. Everything is connected in so many ways. There are a couple of other things you've mentioned also. What is, in your spiritual approach, multi-modality and multi-spirituality? I think we were just starting to really hit on the multi-spirituality, but how are you doing some very conscious work in terms of
Well,
this?
I think it's very organic, and
Okay.
I like to meet people where they're at. And so some people come to me and they've been dealing with chronic back pain or
Yes.
neck pain for a very long time. And so I will meet them there and I'll create a very safe space just by bringing full presence into the room. And really, it sounds so simple, but that creates such an opening for people to heal, because then it allows them to also soften and start to listen to their bodies a little bit more. And
Very true.
yeah, and
Yes.
from that touch, we can start to open up, maybe if they are not really interested in energetic or spiritual work, So even by approaching the body, that can lead to very deep exploration of, is there something underneath? And I work sometimes with crystals, aromatherapy, energy work, shamanic work, and
Intuitive
right.
work.
And with that, if somebody is open, then we can start to look a little deeper into the body's wisdom and listening, maybe with a
Yes.
different intention.
I always think starting, of course, I mean, it would seem natural that you start with why someone came in, what they're dealing with, and it's usually a pain of some kind that's very evident physically. And that's a great way into finding out how in touch someone is with why they're in pain. You can find out a lot about what they've practiced in the past, if they never have, if they have no idea what's going on. And then for me, I start to then move them toward, well, let's go deeper. And as you said, asking, when does this pain come on? What's happening when the pain is not coming on, although this seems to be a chronic thing that you're dealing with. Listening is important for the healer, as you're saying, but what do you also do then to help the person understand to listen? Because when they leave you, they will still be dealing with the things in their life they're dealing with their lessons.
Absolutely.
And so forth.
And so I always like to engage the client in the process by saying, this is a collaboration.
Great.
I prefer to work with people that will come to me on the table and do the work as well. It will give more lasting results, and also just connect people to empower them to heal, instead of, okay, I'm broken, here I am, fix me.
Yes.
We're moving away from that. And so I think
But do you have people that sort of just, I don't want to think about that? They'll tell you why they think
Yes.
it comes up. And sometimes while they're talking to you about why they have this pain, the pain will flare right in front of you and for them to see. But they're like, I'm done with this. I refuse. So what do you do with that?
Well, that's one of the ways that I introduce re-education, especially with the body.
Yes.
And say, this body is so efficient. I mean, the
Yes.
reason why we have these holding patterns is because the body's like, well, you're just going to shove your shoulders right up to your ears anyway. I'm just going to stay there. Right?
I, as your pain, am here to do my job. So
I'm trying to make it easy for you. So I'm just going to stay contracted because that's what you're going to do anyway.
Until you get it.
Right, right. And so then it's like, oh, okay, well, let's engage in this education then.
Yes. Yes,
I don't like how it
indeed.
feels to be
That's
so
true.
tense.
Right, right. I guess I take a deep breath and go, okay, I guess I'd better start listening to my body is what I think eventually becomes clear in time. And then and like you're saying, it sounds like everything you do then is to assist the person on that journey.
Embodiment and empowerment are really at the base of what I'd like to help support with clients.
Amazing. That's great. There's something else you do at the center that I hear about a lot. I'm just not there for, but you work with the Women's Center. And is that downtown LA?
Yes, it is. It's right in Skid Row. It's the Downtown Women's Center. They are the oldest, only women center in downtown.
In downtown.
And they are a wonderful organization.
How did you get involved with working with them?
There's an interesting story behind that. Amy and I, when we were working on our business plan and decided that we were going to open up Golden Soul.
Amy Golden is the other owner of the center.
That's how the name came to be, Golden and Soul. And she called me up one day, and this was very interesting because I had just gotten this message from Spirit that there had to be some kind of volunteer program or giving back in some way to the community. I had been volunteering for a long time at the Union Station in Pasadena and was an advocate through NAMI, which is a grassroots organization to help family members that are supporting people with mental illness. And so the volunteer work, the giving back, is something very, very important to me. And she called me up and she said, I was thinking we need to volunteer. We need to create a volunteer program as part of our, business mission. And I just kind of giggled. I'm like, I was just having that same thought. And at that time, Amy was working in sales and she was working in the natural food industry. And so she would have samples sometimes that she had to get rid of because they were not for individual sale or whatever. And so she found the Downtown Women's Center and she would take them all of these health food bars and things like that. And so that's how we developed the relationship with them. We've been volunteering once a month every Sunday, the first Sunday of every month. And it's a great, great organization.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, one Sunday a month, and you take donations. I know I've given bags of clothes and so forth. And
yes, they have a donation center there. They're open 7 days a week, and they take donations. We provide all of the food and go and clean up their kitchen, and we make lunch for them and serve it to them once a month. And so any financial donations can be made through the website, and that helps us with our food costs because we pay out of pocket for that.
Extraordinary. Thank you very, very much for talking about that, because I get a sense that there are people who would want to help if they can, for sure. I wanted to ask, just take just a few minutes because of a topic that will have run or does run actually from it started back on Valentine's Day and will have run through the end of February. And then just it seems like a theme that is showing up all over the place, self-love. Is there anything you want to say about that, or what you've discovered?
That's where it all starts, right?
Yes.
That is such a beautiful way of getting in touch with yourself, healing,
Yes.
connecting with others. Everything starts with the self. And so self-love, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's always on trend. But with the work,
You wake up with it. You're with it all day.
Hopefully,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, that
and
there's a consciousness
this
there.
Evolution of spirituality that we're experiencing, especially here in LA, is part of people waking up to how important it is to care for themselves. It's no longer, I mean, I do occasionally get clients that come in and feel like massage is a luxury, but more and more people are coming in to take meditation classes, yoga classes, get massage, all of that, because they know it's important for their self-care. And if they are taking care of themselves, then they show up in a different way in the world for their family, their friends, their lovers. And so that's really with self-love, you know, what I feel is...
Feel it offers you for working in your best interests. Thank you for being here. I do want to ask you, speaking of self-love and what could be happening for you at Golden Soul, what kind of events are coming up for you over the next months?
So as we mentioned, we have the volunteer event. It's once a month. It's the first Sunday of every month. It's from 9:30 to 1. Excellent. And we always welcome volunteers. And the nice thing is that if you sign up through Golden Soul, you don't have to go through any special training or wait list through the center. You just email us through the website and let us know you're interested, and we'll give you all the details and whatever you need to show up and help us. And it's very fun. It's a few hours once a month, and everybody has a great time.
Yes.
You know, so that's coming up on the first Sunday of the month. And also once a month, I hold a breathwork circle. And if you're interested in shamanic work, if you're interested in breathing, which I hope you are, we should all be interested in breathing. But this,
but how few people? I don't know how often I have to help people with breath. They have no idea how much anxiety builds up, depression. One of the reasons they can't meditate or feel they can't is because the breath isn't in place as well. Brilliant. I'm so happy to hear. And
all of the money that comes in through that workshop goes to the Downtown Women's Center Food Fund. So a little
tremendous
double win
incentive,
on that.
Yes.
Yeah, a double win.
Excellent. Do you want to just give your details of where Golden Soul is located and just the website?
Sure. So Golden Soul is right below the observatory in Griffith Park. It's a beautiful little area with, you know, restaurants you can walk to after class or after session. It's so it's just a really nice little neighborhood. And we're at 4446 Ambrose. And our website is goldensoul.org. Has all the information, as well as all of the healers that work with us, information on the teachers
and the events, where you will find one of my events for late in March. On March 24th, I'm just holding a workshop there on Isis, the goddess of families, magic, etc. She of 10,000 names. And again, that's March 24th from 3 to 5 p.m. But you'll go to their events page and you'll see everyone's offerings. So that to me is exciting.
We have very fun offerings.
Let's see. I often draw a tarot card for guests.
Yay.
I'm just making noise shuffling the cards, and let's see what we get for you today. It's always interesting. Okay. I'm doing this completely. I've cut the cards into 3 piles. Now I'm putting them back. And wherever you want to choose from, you can choose the top card, or you can open them and pull a card.
Oh, okay.
Up to you.
This
Whatever
always,
feels right.
Okay, what feels right? I saw myself do this.
There you go. Then use that intuition.
I'm going to pick this one here.
Okay, let me see. Oh, nice. It's the 6 of Wands. It's the victory card. It's a suggestion that there must have been something that would seem either like a battle, but not necessarily a difficult fight, but something you've been working on, trying for. Maybe you finally reach some level of attainment. So it's telling you, well done. You have success at this point. It doesn't mean you won't go further, but at least at this point today, or in this time, there is a success from a work, a passion that you've done, that you've been following. And you don't have to share that, but if you know of something, there is it can mean an aha moment. And it can mean in your gut just a feeling of, I know things are getting better. And it's a sense, and it's also, the wands are fire. So it's that passion has taken you to a certain place and now is going to see you forward, is also what I would say about the card.
Beautiful. I love that message. It feels very much like a card of acknowledgement.
Of the work you've been doing, and it's taken you to this point. Excellent. Happy victory then.
Yay. Thank you.
And so, again, I so appreciate you and admire you and appreciate everything that you're doing. We do have to close now, sadly, but I have asked Marisol to share something with us today as we close. And what have you chosen?
Well, it's so interesting that you chose your opening on valuing the shadow.
Oh, okay.
And this can be interpreted a bit like that as well. And this is a poem by Mary Oliver, who passed away in January. And a lot of her work is based on the intelligence of nature and blending the natural world with the spirit world and the divine. Clearing my throat here.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. And this is called A Dream of Trees. There is a thing in me that dreamed of trees, a quiet house, some green and modest acres, a little way from every troubling town, a little way from factories, schools, laments. I would have time, I thought, and time to spare, with only streams and birds for company, to build out of my life a few wild stanzas. And then it came to me that so was death, a little way away from everywhere. There is a thing in me still dreams of trees, but let it go. Homesick for moderation, half the world's artists shrink or fall away. If any find solution, let him tell it. Meanwhile, I bend my heart towards lamentation, where, as the times implore our true involvement, the blades of every crisis point the way. I would it were not so, but so it is. Whoever made music of a mild day?
Oh. And there's how synchronicity works, folks. We did not plan this. With the Buddha speaking of the joy in the shadows, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
What a beautiful poem.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
your
me.
being here. Wonderful. I want to say thank you to Allison Werner, who's a friend of mine, but she has helped me in so many ways with social media and technical things. So I always want to thank her. Thank you to Paul Preston, who's sitting here quietly, who's our sound technician. And thank you to Kevin MacLeod, who offered the music that we are now using for the podcast. And thank you all listeners. I will see you in 2 weeks. Namaste.